The silver-gray skin of Admiral Galvan did not merely pale, it pulsed a jagged, chaotic violet. Suddenly, the air itself seemed to reject him. Every metal fastener, every data slate, and even the heavy command chair shrieked as they were violently repelled from his body. He reached for the console, but his own magnetic field shoved it away with bone-snapping force. A routine patrol in a quiet corridor, the Neferi specialist had whispered. That was 4 hours ago, before the capture of the human scout ship had turned curiosity into a haunting riddle. Beneath the polished deck plating, the flagship's reactor hummed. To a Gulvathi, the ship was not just a vessel. It was a choir of magnetic frequencies. My ferromagnetic organs sang in harmony with the hull, sensing every deck, every strut, and every bolt within 30 meters. On the bridge of the lodestone, we lived within a perfect artificial equilibrium. The smell of cold iron tang filled the air, a scent that signified safety and order to my kind. I stood at the center of the command dais, my metallic skin polarized in a steady north-south alignment, a visible sign of my absolute composure. Beside me, the Neferi sensor specialist floated in a containment tank. Their bioluminescent tendrils extended like delicate, glowing threads. They were reading the data streams from the captured human scout, a tiny, battered needle of a ship currently tethered in our docking bay. No crew, no life signs, just a humming computer core and a single physical document left on the pilot's seat. It was a crew manifest. I held the sheet of synthetic fiber, my magnetic sense tracing the trace amounts of metallic ink used in the printing. There were 200 names listed. As Fleet Admiral, I had immediate access to the Galactic database. I ran a cross-reference, expecting to find the identities of the vanished crew. The results were impossible. Every single one of the 200 individuals was currently confirmed alive. Not just alive, but serving on 200 different ships across 12 different sectors. According to the records, none of them had ever set foot on the scout ship currently sitting in our bay. They were ghosts, yet they were visible in the fleet registries of the human systems, active and accounted for. It was a shield made of names, a sharp, metallic chime, then silence. The Neferi specialist's glow shifted from a soft amber to a frantic, strobing blue. Their tendrils retracted, curling into tight, protective knots. I looked at the primary viewport, though my magnetic sense had already told me what was happening. 3 human destroyers dropped from warp. They were small, blocky things, their magnetic signatures dull and unimpressive compared to the radiance of my flagship. I felt a surge of professional disdain. We outnumbered them 8-1 in this sector. My skin polarized even more sharply, the silver-gray turning to a deep, authoritative leaden hue. "Demand their surrender," I commanded. "They are trespassing in a contested corridor." But the numbers kept climbing. 3 signatures became 7, 7 became 15. Within seconds, the space around us began to crawl with the cold, hard weight of human steel. Each arrival hit my magnetic sense like a physical blow. The void was no longer empty, it was becoming a forest of metal, and the trees were closing in. Come with us as we chart the shifting tides of the galaxy's most resilient species. Join our ranks to ensure you never miss a transmission from the front lines. The human fleet did not respond to our hails. They simply continued to emerge, ship after ship, until my internal sensors began to vibrate with an agonizing frequency. A metallic shriek. It wasn't coming from the ship's speakers, but from the very molecules of the bridge. Through my magnet sense, I felt the human destroyers cycle their main batteries. They weren't firing standard kinetic slugs. My skin prickled as I sensed the rounds exiting their tubes, small, seemingly harmless canisters of copper and steel. Wait. Mid-flight, the magnetic signatures of those rounds blossomed. I watched, paralyzed by the data streaming into my marrow, as the human weapons literally rebuilt themselves in the vacuum. An internal charge detonated, reshaping the metal plate into a hypervelocity dart of molten copper. Before it even reached our shields, it was a weapon born in the moment of its use, a masterpiece of kinetic geometry. to rock the lodestone with a violence that bypassed our inertial dampeners. My magnetic field is strong enough to hold a ship together. It was not strong enough to hold my composure. Admiral, the fleet count, the Nephral specialist pulsed, their light now a dying ember. It has exceeded the limits of my array. They were already here. They were always here. A single transmission flickered onto the main screen. It was not a visual feed, but a text crawl, synchronized with a timer that sat at absolute zero. The countdown finished before this message began. This is the notification. And then, the world turned inside out. My eyes focused, not on anything specific that was the problem. Focus painfully sharp, everything visible in perfect detail. Every scratch on the console, every dust particle dancing in the red emergency light. My body had shifted into a raw, primal threat detection mode. The silver gray of my skin didn't just violet, it inverted. The lodestone packed within me, the very organ that allowed me to command the metal around me, buckled under the sheer pressure of the human presence. My field flipped. I became a walking pole of repulsion. I reached for the tactical override, but the console shrieked and tore itself from its mountings, flying across the room as if pushed by an invisible hand. My own rank insignia ripped from my chest, clattering against the bulkhead. I was a fleet admiral who could no longer touch his own ship. I was an observer in a cage of my own making, surrounded by 200 ships I had failed to see. The humans did not board us. They did not need to. They simply sat in the void, a silent metallic forest, watching as we drifted, powerless in the wake of their arrival. Hours later, after the human fleet had vanished back into the fold as quickly as they had appeared, I sat on the floor of the darkened bridge. The magnetic fields had stabilized, but the iron tang smell was gone, replaced by the scent of ozone and failure. I held the crew manifest in my shaking hands. 200 names. I looked at the list again. Tracing the metallic ink, I finally understood why the records showed them all alive elsewhere. Humans crewed their scouts with the names of those who stayed behind. If the ship was taken, no soul was lost, only a list of those waiting for them to come home. The manifest wasn't a record of who was on the ship. It was a shield, a promise, and a warning. They had planned for their own capture before they even cleared the atmosphere. They had named their ghosts to protect the living. I looked out at the quiet corridor, sensing only the cold, distant metal of the stars, and realized I was holding a paper full of people who never existed, yet had already won. Do you think a species that prepares for defeat is more dangerous than one that only expects victory? Tell us your thoughts below, and we will see you in the next chronicle.